Good morning, children. Today we'll start our programming language, Java. Okay, let me share the screen with you. Yes, this is your fourth chapter. I have finished all the other chapters except for Java, which is from 4 to 8. Uh, Four chapters of Java. Let's start with it. Today I'll give you a little introduction of Java, and then I'll tell you why it's called a programming language and what are the approaches for this programming. If we can complete, we will also finish the features of OOPS. Okay. Introduction to Java. Java basically was started by James Gosling in the year 1995. Actually, it was first named as Oak Tree because he had an oak tree in front of his office. And then it was taken over by Sun Microsoft. And today we have Java, the high level programming language. Let's learn about it. Now, you know that the computer has to perform so many tasks. You're using the computer every day, and you know it performs so many tasks. How is it able to perform all these tasks? To perform all these tasks, it requires some instruction to do these tasks. So the instructions given to the computer are called as program. Hope you understood what's a program. So a computer needs to perform many tasks, right? It has a variety of tasks to perform. And to perform these tasks, it has to be given some instructions. These set of instructions are called as programs. Now, the instructions that are given to the computer that is in a program, it can be, given in this format. First is sequential order. It should be given. You learn in programming techniques, PLT, programming logic techniques, how you had to learn it step by step, right? And you also learned how to create the flow chart, right? So it's a sequential, that is orderly way. Then the next step is decision making. You need to give a decisions. That's like logical decisions and iterative. Okay, you have to create your, in what directions you need to go. It's like an itinerary. Okay, here's an example. How would you understand the meaning of sequence, decision making, and iterative? Now, here there's an example of, I've taken the example of railway reservations. Now, if you want to reserve your ticket, first thing the railway reservation center has to provide you with all the information. That is the destination places that are allotted, the date, time, departure, booking class, which class you want to go in, first class, second class, AC. Okay, and once you have done this, you need to even check the availability and whether your ticket is confirmed. So there are so much of processing that has to be done for you to do a railway reservation. So in a railway reservation, you need to provide certain informations like the destination that you're going to, the date you're going to leave, and the time and departure, the booking class, the availability, and the confirmation. All these above details, they are entered into the computer to carry out all these types of activities. That is the activities of telling you about the destination, the dates, the timings that it's available. So all these things are entered into the computer. Not to just carry out one activity, but so many activities. To perform all these activities, the computer needs a set of instructions. So these instructions are called programs. So I hope you understood what is a program. So program is nothing but instructions given to a computer, and these instructions given are in different languages. You must be learning different programming languages like C, C++, Java, which we are going to learn. So instructions can be given to the computer in different languages that has a set of rules, and these set of rules are called as instructions. Hope you understood what is the task to be performed and what is a program, what is instructions, okay, and what is a language, a computer language. Now here, the very first thing, so as I told you, you need a programming language to give these instructions. So computer language can be classified into different categories. These categories, there are three types of categories that you have. First one is called machine language. Second one, assembly language. The third one is high level language, which is your Java, high level programming language. Let's see what is machine language. What is machine language? The computer can understand machine language. That is, the machine languages is in the binary form, that is zeros and ones. So computer can understand only binary system, that is zeros and ones, that is called the machine language. The language that the computer understands, that is through this binary language, it's called as a machine language. So any instructions that are given to the computer, they have to be in a sequential order of zeros and ones to describe any operations that the computer has to perform. Clear? So first, what is a machine language? Machine language can understand, the computer can understand only zeros and ones, that is binary system. And this zeros and ones, the computer that can understand this type of binary language is called as a machine language. And all the instructions that are given should be given in sequential order of zeros and ones to describe any operations for the computer to perform. Next one, we go to the assembly language. What do you understand as assembly language? Assembly language is something like, it's difficult to remember these instructions because it's a long form of lots of zeros and ones, long string of zeros and ones. So it's very difficult to remember. So assembly language, they use different symbols. They use letters, special characters, digits, okay, and to give the instructions. So what are the things that the assembly language is using? Symbols, like what are the symbols? Letters, digits, special characters. These are some of the things that they use to create the assembly language. Now the computer cannot execute the assembly programming language directly because it's not in binary form. As I told you, the computer can understand only zeros and ones. But here what we are doing, we are giving all the symbols or the instructions in letters, digits, and special characters, which cannot be understood by the computer. These type of things, they have to be converted. They have to be converted into machine language. So the computer cannot execute the assembly language directly because it is not in binary format. So therefore, it has to be converted into the machine language, that is zeros and ones. So for this, they use a utility or a translator. This is known as assembler. This utility or the translator that is used to convert these symbols is known as a translator. So they are used to convert the assembly language into a machine language. So this is the steps how language was progressing from machine language to assembly language. And now what we are using is called the high level language. So high level language is like natural language, and they are not processor dependent. The processor means you need a translator to convert all these things. That's the so they don't need. So what is a high level language? What we are using right now, Java is a high level language. High level language resemble a natural language and are not processor dependent. A utility, they need like a thing to convert. That utility is called a compiler. A compiler is used. Remember the word compiler. A compiler, what it does is it converts the program written in high level language, it converts it automatically into a machine language, like the modem. How you receive your signals, it can receive it into the like digital signals and convert it into analog signals into digital signals and digital signals into analog signals. So when you're receiving any WhatsApp information and all, it's coming into the digital form into your computer. But when you, into your cell phone or computer, when you open it, you can see it right away into English because it is converted into a analog. So it converts digital language into analog, analog into digital. So when I'm sending anything, I write it in our normal common language, in English or whatever language you are speaking. You just type it in that and the machine converts it into the digital format. So when it is sending the message, it sends it in the digital format. And this all is done with the help of a modem, right? So like that only the Java programming language needs a converter. That's nothing but the compiler. So the utility or a compiler is used to convert the program written in high-level language into a machine language. So there are many high-level languages available right now. Some of them are C, C++, Java, and each language have their own advantages. Everything is used even till today. All of them have their own advantages and they're being used. Right now you have other languages like Python, which is latest, right? Now, how would you design a program? Now, suppose you're a programmer, you're starting. Actually, you already learned in your sixth class in PLT how you designed it, how you wrote it in that pictorial form, which is called the flowchart, right? You had the graphical representation, which is your flowchart. And then you solve all the problems in the algorithm format, right? So to solve a problem, you first have to define, describe, and then design the procedure. You have to define the problem, you have to describe. See, you first define it like your science, you have to define it, and then you describe it, and then you design the procedure to solve your problem. So you design the procedure before you start writing your program. These are the three steps: define, describe, design the procedure before you start writing a program. Now, there are two major procedures to solve a problem. The two major procedures are, first one is algorithm. As I already told you, what is algorithm? Algorithm means sequentially you're going to put the steps to solve your problem. You can't jump from the first step to the last step. It has to be step by step. How you solve your math problem, you need to do it in a sequential order, right? If you're making tea, tea doesn't get ready automatically. You have to first take the milk, boil the milk, then put the tea leaves, then you need to put the sugar. It's a sequential order before the tea is ready. Also your cooking process, anything, it's in a sequential step. So also your programming is done with two major procedures, and that is algorithm, the other is flowchart. Flowchart you already done. Flowchart is nothing but a graphical representation of the algorithm. Algorithm is your uh, um, mathematical format. Now, approaches to programming. There are two main approaches in the programming language. They are, first one is procedure-oriented programming language, right? That's not only I told you, you have to do it in a correct procedure, sequential order. The other one is object-oriented programming language, which is also known as OOPS. Java is an object-oriented language. So what is procedure? What is the difference between procedure-oriented language and object-oriented language? Procedure-oriented language, they all contain step-by-step procedure to execute. And the problem, they are broken down into small, small parts, and then they are solved. So each part, um, these all are used together. The procedures are interlinked. Each part that is solved, each one is interlinked, and they are independent in such a way that the functions of one part has to depend upon the other one. So if you remove one part, one function, then it will affect the entire program. And if you add any procedure approaching, may be useful for only small, simple programming. But for difficult and complex programming, procedure-oriented programming it does not suit these type of programming languages. It does not suit complex, because sometimes you need to remove some parts which are some calculations which don't suit your total program. You need to remove it. And suppose if you do it in a procedure-oriented program, the whole thing is being affected. You cannot do it by even removing one part, because they all are interlinked. That is procedure oriented programming language. Let's see the next one, object oriented programming language. Object oriented programming language, what here you have an object oriented programming language. It's a collection of different objects, collection of objects and their components, and they are arranged in an hierarchy form. What is hierarchy? Like your family tree, your great grandfather, then your grandfather, then your father, then you're the child and the grandchild. That is hierarchy procedure. There'll be some things that are resemblance from your grandfather till the great grandchild. There'll be something which is similar. That is happens only in a hierarchy format. So in object oriented language, there are collections of objects and their components, and they're arranged in a hierarchy form, and you learn how they are related. Okay, so object oriented programming language is a representation of a real world. They've taken the real world example and they have created this type of come out with this language. So example, if you see, you have many objects, right? If you see around your world, you have so many objects. That's why it said it's a representation of a real world. You have human being, they are called as objects. A chair is an object, a bike is an object, animals are objects. So these are some examples of objects. And what is object oriented programming language? It's simplified the processor, it's designed, and there are three steps. Like object oriented programming languages simplifies the process of designing, programming, and program debugging. Now here there is a nice example to give you for an object oriented programming language. There's a manager, an admin manager, and he needs to create a computer lab. He wants to build a computer lab. So he has to go step by step. He can't go and come and put off the computers directly just like that, as I told you. First, what he has to do, he first has to construct a building, a room, and it should have definite boundaries, definite features that suit a lab, a computer lab, the dimensions, the color of the wall, all these things. First, he has to start off. First, he has to start building the room. He has to define the boundaries, the features, like the dimensions and the color of the walls. These are the first steps he has to do. Next, what he has to do, once a room is built, he has to put a LAN network. That is a local area network connecting all the computers with each other. He has to fix the projector. Then he has to have computers put on the platform there. And then he has to put chairs, tables, and he has to have a telephone line to connect all these so that the computers get connected. Then he needs a projector screen in the lab. These are some of the necessities that are required in the computer lab. These all are nothing but the objects. So OOPS is a collection of lot of objects that interact with each other to complete a proper task. So the task to create a lab, all these objects are required. And when they are interacted with each other, that task is performed. So this interaction, you need to know what is interaction. I'll be telling you now. The interaction is like a method. Okay, Java is an example of object-oriented programming language. So as I told you, Java is an object-oriented programming language. So these objects like this, that's why it's called an object-oriented programming language. So Java helps the user to create all these programmers. What they do is they are able to create different softwares, make many applications for your mobile phones, for playing games, for car. You have self-driving cars and so many. All this is created because the Java programming language helps the users to create their own softwares, to create beautiful applications for you to use. So such an important language and such a simple and easy language. Okay, I'll not teach you the concepts of the Java oriented language. First, because it's quite long, I'll take it in the next class. Okay. Hope you understood till here the introduction to Java. What is an object-oriented language? The difference between machine language, assembly language, and the high-level language. That's all for now. Thank you. Have a nice day. Stay safe and do all your homework.